you have a lot of hats as a gamer. So you love the RPG, MMORPG world, but you're also a big shooter guy. Can you explain to me what fun in a shooter context is? And we'll talk about Overwatch as a specific kind of fun. Maybe you're also a huge fan of the ultra realistic shooters, Call of Duty. What is the definition of fun there?
There's a lot of skill and mastery. Off the cuff, flippant comment would be clicking heads. I'm just trying to click heads.
Okay.
There's an intimacy also to the first person camera. And now, not all shooters are first person. There's a large trend these days to third person. I really think PUBG and Fortnite sort of opened that third person shooter door. And you're seeing games like Arc Raiders are third person. But to me, nothing is as pure as first person. Like you're literally living in the world as that being. You can look at your hands, and it's that pure, visceral test of skill of can you click on the thing fast enough? And when it's PvP based, that's coming at you.
Could you lay out for people who don't necessarily know what PvP and PvE is, and single player,
Absolutely.
multiplayer, massively online multiplayer?
So PvP is player versus player. So that means a combative, if Lex and I are up against each other, we're attacking each other. We call that PvP. You can get killed by another player. Player versus environment is anytime you're shooting computer controlled opponents. So if it's a game about dragons, the dragon is the environment in PvE.
And we should say that PvP and PvE, the P might be multiple players. So it could be 5 versus 5, 6 versus 6 for PvP, and for PvE it could be like raids where it's multiple people, large groups of people going against the AI.
Yep. So single player, that's a game that you play totally by yourself. Like you don't play with anybody else. You can't play with anybody else. It's not networked to play with other people. For example, I'm playing a game called Story of Seasons right now on the Switch, which I just play by myself. I have my farm. There's a town. I'm meeting people in the town, and no one can come and join me and interact with that. So it's a very controlled experience. Single player games are very difficult, or they can be very difficult and expensive in terms of production to create. Like if you think of a game like Uncharted or Last of Us that's made by Naughty Dog, like those are kind of the preeminent best single player games you could talk about. They're very handcrafted. Every experience is made just for you. One up from that is what I call co-op. And these terms become interchangeable, so I'm using some semantics here. But co-op is any cooperative experience that we can play together, but we're sharing an exact same experience very intentionally. And it's me sharing that experience only with other people that I know. So a great example of a cooperative game, maybe one of the best of all times, was Left 4 Dead, which is a game where you and 3 other people go in and you fight like hordes of zombies and you try to progress through to the end safe room. It's a very cooperative experience. A game like Diablo 4, you can play cooperatively with other people. Now, one up from that is multiplayer. And that's when you're engaging with strangers who are in the same world that you might not have the same cooperative goals as. You might have very opposed goals to them. You might PvP them, or they might just be random strangers that you pass in a town or city and never see again. And then massively multiplayer, which is what the MMO online sort of stands for, massively multiplayer online game. That's when you're breaking into thousands of players. And the world's become really, really big at that point.
And by the way, we should say that the co-op could be remote connection, but there's also what would you call that? Couch co-op. where you have two people. Some games really design well for the experience of two humans sitting together and playing the game together,
Yep.
which is a really tricky thing to design for. But if it's done well, it's a really fulfilling experience. Like with a friend, with a loved one, you can like play a game together. And Diablo 4, I should say, is an example of a game that does that really well. They do couch co-op. Like two people can play Diablo sitting together, and there's a real intimate experience in that.
It's funny because it actually like predates the couch. Even some of those old arcade games
Yeah.
like would have two joysticks on them, and then you could play with somebody else. Or there's famous game Gauntlet
Mhm.
had four joysticks and four people playing together. And then anybody who grew up in that early console era, like, NES, Sega Genesis was a legendary one. We would sit and we play NHL 93 on the couch, and anybody who lost, you'd lose the controller. And you could play that with up to four people playing. I remember one of the big games that came out was Mortal Kombat, and we would play Mortal Kombat on the Sega Genesis. And it was the house rules were, whoever lost. So whether you were in your college dorm or just some buddy's apartment and there's five people there, you're constantly cycling everybody in and out. But there's just a magic to multiplayer of engaging and sharing in the
Mhm.
experience with other people. That's why I've never made a single player game. I have great admiration for them. I don't know if I could do it. The challenge, the reason I love multiplayer so much, the way I describe being a game director or game designer on a multiplayer game, it's like imagine if you were going to be a movie director and you were going to have all these actors and set designers and props and writers and scripts and all of this stuff, and your goal was to get a certain movie made. But we're going to ask you, the director, to just you're going to leave the room. You can set it all up ahead of time, and then you're not allowed to be there or talk to anybody involved in it.
Mhm.
And now you need the actors to have an experience. And it's just kind of the wildest, funnest experiment. Like,
From a designer creator perspective, because you don't know what the players will create. So that's fun to see. You lay out the chessboard, you lay out the world, and then you get to watch what they create together. That's true.